Hey YouTube, Carco here. A lot's changed in the game, so I thought I'd make a video to explain kind of how portals have changed Boundless. It's pretty interesting. The first thing to know about portals is that they were the very first thing in the game that I noticed when coming back, and they had a pretty significant change on the way the game operates and plays right now. So I thought I'd make a video to show you guys. The first thing to know about them is they're kind of what caught my attention over everything in the game right now, and it made me basically want to see what had changed in the game after a long time. And frankly, most of the features are here to a large extent. There are a couple noticeable ones missing, but I'd say about 75% of what was on the roadmap originally is here if you go back to the original video. So first thing, I've already built one inside my house, and of course portals, if you don't know, are the gateways that link two destinations together inside the game. And you basically have to put fuel into them. They have a little token system that you supply that you can create. It's kind of like a bookmark, and then you feed them fuel, and then they stay open as long as you fuel them. And they had a very significant change. The last time I played the game was maybe about a year and a half ago, but I'll just show you. Just like that, we went from the top of my house to the very bottom of my house in just a matter of seconds. So anyways, it's pretty cool. The interesting things about them is the last time I played the game, you used to make bookmarks, and bookmarks would be the way you'd get around. You'd either buy a bookmark or you would craft all the way to construct the warp totem, which would take you to a new planet that you'd never been to before, and that was kind of like the zenith of gameplay at that point, like the end of the crafting chain. And now it's been changed around to where I'd say probably about halfway into the game can realistically start to construct. You can construct portals, and of course you can see right through them to the other side in real time. It's pretty cool. If somebody walks by, you'll see them on the other side. And so what it does is it basically linked the game together. When I first got back, I didn't actually have the money at the time to build a portal. So I actually went over to a neighbor of mine when we were roaming around over there, and that guy actually had a portal open. And it took me to what I later discovered to realize to be one of the main cities on the planet. And so when I went there, I immediately started going through different portals to start exploring. And it didn't take me long to realize how much the game had changed and how much more active it really was. Like, things that we dreamed about in the old days are actually here. Like, there are player cities that are going on, and each one of these portals you see goes somewhere different. So, for example, you can see when you go through, I probably just bridged somewhere else. I'm on the same world, but I'm in a completely different location than I was. I'm not anywhere near the city right now anymore, right? I was standing in the middle of a metropolis. Now I'm out in the middle of nowhere. But you get the idea that these portals can connect you to storefronts, especially if you're a merchant, in very interesting ways that aren't even physically possible in the real world. And so the first thing was it connected all of the players in the game together. And that was a really nice change of pace. Beforehand, you'd really need to roam around to try and find people, or you'd need to communicate out a game to reach people. But now it's actually pretty common. Yes, someone's going to my shop. Hooray! Make money. You'd actually roam around in the game and see people. Like here's Wiggum, and the B guy's around here somewhere. It's his wife, and you know. You can find lots of people now. So the entire player base is pretty much connected together in a very real way. And so, of course, people sell access to portals to link to them. But for instance here, I just transported to a world that's probably 6 planets away in just a second from where I was before. Let me say hi to people. I like to be nice and say hello. But yeah, it changed things really dramatically. So now people are able to get together in real tangible ways, like in real time, and group up to do content. And there is now group content in the form of meteorites, where it's essentially like a raid where you have more than more than 6 to 8 people. A typical group I've seen would have something like 15, 20 people in it on a regular day, and there's larger ones on the weekend. But the portals essentially allowed us to get together in one place very quickly. So, for instance, if I wanted to go to the other major city to meet up with somebody, I know it's literally just seconds for me to get there, right? Boom, boom. Oh, look, I'm in the other major city that's one of the furthest distances away in the entire game. And if I wanted to meet up for a hunting party, what did that take me, like 4 or 5 seconds? And then this is the common place that we currently meet to go hunt together. And bam, I'm there. So you can see getting people together to go do something is a lot easier and a lot more fun. And frankly, the very first thing I did when I came back to the game was literally just keep going through all these portals. I mean, there's enough to explore for hours in and of itself, just exploring the existing connections that get created, which kind of goes to one of the interesting mechanics that's developed in the game. Since I last played, they introduced something called footfall, which seems kind of strange at first, but then you realize how genius it is. Basically, footfall is the concept that if you have a beacon placed down, which protects your blocks, and somebody walks onto it, you get paid money for that. And the idea behind that is it's an incentive and a reward for actually building cool stuff. You want people to come to the stuff you make and see it and be excited and enjoy it. This gives them a way to actually get something of value back that they can then trade in exchange for the work of creating something that people actually want to come see. Well, the consequence of that is that naturally the fastest way to get lots of people to go through it, a location, is to create a hub of some sort, right, that all the portals connect to. And so when you put the footfall with portals, you get into an interesting situation that portals actually and hub networks are actually a competitive aspect of the game. So people are constantly trying to build networks that would connect you to desirable destinations. And so that's one of the neat aspects of the game that started to emerge that I don't think anyone really ever really thought about or ever talked about back in the old days. I mean, we knew we'd be able to move around, but that would be part of the gameplay. I don't remember ever hearing somebody mention. So it's a really neat concept. I can think of several transit systems that are currently in the game that are all competing with each other. And it's fun. It's neat. If you have time, you can build one yourself. It's kind of a fun experiment in and of itself. So the other thing that did was that, of course, with portals being introduced, it allowed us to link shops together in really interesting ways. So, I mean, you'd think of a market kind of like this, where there are physical shops, but the interesting aspect is that once they put portals in the game, these spots, like for my spot right over here, there's nothing but a blank wall behind it in like physical block terms. But because there's a portal open, it links you to my shop front. In fact, you can see my prices listed right here, so you can see them without even entering my space to hopefully get you to come take a look. But you can do interesting, impossible things. So look, all right, so we're looking at VW Shop, right? And VW Shop goes down and around, and you can see that in space. But if we actually go in here to this grill, I mean, this is technically, if you were thinking in just three-dimensional terms, there should be something here, but there's not. So you can actually, with portals in this game, you can create some really interesting, impossible shapes, I guess, because of the interdimensional rifts. But that's one of the really neat things that I didn't think about. So what it does is, like, it allows you to create, like, in terms of creating a shopping center, that allows you to do garbage collection. So let's say somebody becomes inactive, right? You know, like in normal terms, people are going to come, people are going to go. That's part of life. Whenever somebody becomes inactive, right, their portal runs out of fuel, it closes. Well, then all you have to do is just put the spot back up for grabs. Somebody comes along, grabs a token, opens a new one, you change the sign, boom. You just swapped out merchants. And if somebody was physically here, I mean, you'd have to tear down the shop, you know, something like that. But now with portals being here, you just link the gateway to another shop, which, you know, may be on a completely different planet in some cases. Oh, somebody wants to say hi. Hello. And, you know, a new merchant's brought online and put in the place. So that's one of the really neat things that happened in the game. So there's that. Let me see. I talked about football. It also tied the economy together. So an interesting aspect of the game is now that a lot of the shops are all linked together and you don't have to walk very far to get to most of the stores in the game, it's very easy to actually go around and check people's prices on items. So if you don't know, there are now atlases in the game. These are really cool. And you can go and just look at somebody's prices to see kind of where you are relative to the other people in the market that you're competing with to sell items. And since everything's kind of linked together in interesting ways, it's pretty easy to go price check your competitors. So that's another fun aspect that kind of it helped to balance out the economy and also connect it. Because some people, you know, I personally have gone around and just looked for deals to buy and sell between sellers that have price discrepancies in some cases for quick, easy cash. So that's another aspect of it. Let's see. And that's pretty much it. So if you haven't had a chance to come back and check out the game, I'd highly recommend it. Some of the mechanics that have changed have made the game very interesting. It's now fun to play with people as a group, and portals are just kind of one of the most obvious and major ways that everything changed in the game. Pretty significantly, and pretty recently too, from what I can tell on some of the things that have been implemented, because there's now food items, and it plays a lot more like an RPG at this point. So if you haven't taken a look at it in a while, you should. And I'll talk to you guys later.